Well, hello, sports fans, and welcome to the Mike Scully Show. Was Patrick Mahomes absent, or were the Eagles really that good? Well, the guys I got in studio today, we're going to debate that for the next hour or so. My man, the Hebrew Hammer, Philadelphia Eagles superfan, Big E. Eliot, how are you, brother?
I won't quite say superfan compared to the lunatics that are up there. They're going to burn that city down for the parade tomorrow, but rooting for him and a fan, yes.
Attaboy. And we brought back my man from the hills of West Virginia, my man Sean O'Rourke. What do you say, Sean?
Mr. Scully, I am tip top, and I'm going to simply say this. Boys, we have to choose love because it's going to take all of us.
Well, and today we have our man Trick, the boy from South Alabama, is under the weather. And unlike my man Eliot, who is hurt but not injured and has posted to do the show, we wish Trick the best. He's at home, probably drinking a little bourbon, trying not to throw up. But we've got our man Gentry on the board today. He'll chime in, and we're ready to go. But, well, gentlemen, the Super Bowl was basically over at the 7-minute mark of the first quarter. What do we think went wrong, or what do we think is Philadelphia, where is that? I mean, from an offensive lineman standpoint, they dominated both lines of scrimmage.
Yeah, and that was when you can not need to blitz once the entire game and get that much pressure. That's what we saw the Giants did to Brady in the 2 Super Bowls that they beat him. It allows your defense to do so much more having that 5th, 6th, 7th defender hanging back there and still getting pressure, not just only rushing for, but still getting pressure from that and forcing mistakes. And the offensive line, that has been the Eagles' calling card, and it lets you take what the defense gives you. If the defense wants to take away Saquon, which the Chiefs did. Yeah. Great. Okay.
What did he finish with? 43 yards or?
I think like 59 yards, something like that, but it wasn't a big number.
It wasn't a big number.
It was less than 60. You're right.
Right.
You're right.
Well, the University of Georgia's front 7 basically shut down the Kansas City Chiefs. Great drafting by Howie and his staff there, because every one of those young men.
Well, and they've got 2 young guys on the offensive line at their center who replaced Kelsey and at left guard. Mm-hmm. Again, when you can rebuild through the draft, even drafting lower in the 20s and getting, they've hit every one of their picks in the first 3 rounds for the last 3 drafts. That will get you success.
Yeah, totally. I mean, my social media post of when I switched picks with you guys last week, that did not age well. I've gotten crucified all week.
And look, I made the comment. You cut out the wrong person.
Well, congratulations on the Georgia Bulldogs for their first Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. Those boys got some hardware. They did a couple rings, and now they got the big ring.
But Scully, I twittered out to you that you responded to the first half stats. I don't know if you saw those, Eliot. 1 first down, 3 yards of rushing, 20 total plays at 1.2 yards per play. That is dominant.
And completely dominant.
Well, I never thought I'd hear this come out of my mouth. They made Patrick look human.
Yes.
He looked like an average NFL quarterback, not the great Patrick Mahomes, which, kudos. And how about Jalen Hurts? I mean, this is a story. This young man's story gets better by the day. I mean, gets benched for Tua, transfers to Oklahoma, gets the Oklahoma into the college football playoff, but runs into probably the best college football team in the last 20 years with Joe Burrow and the guys at LSU. I was actually at that game with my son at the Mercedes-Benz Dome in Atlanta, and they put up, I think, 63 points. It was insane. It was over in the middle of the first quarter. But then gets drafted 2nd round. Everybody says he can't throw. All he does is run. I mean, there's a great clip because Kellen Moore obviously signed with as the new head coach of the Saints today, or his press conference was announced today. There's him and the head coach from the Eagles on the sidelines. I don't know if you saw the clip. It's when he makes the throw deep to Devontae, and he says, "If we score here, game's over." And he says, "Make the call, make the call." And they were going right up top and trying to put him away. And it was a great throw, great catch, and game over.
So interesting, Devontae Smith stat. And I saw this in a clip before the Super Bowl, and I didn't look up to see if it, because, Lord knows if it's on the internet, it must be true. They had said there's no Alabama player had ever scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl.
In the Super Bowl, yep.
Until now?
Yeah, my son, Jackie's an Alabama super fan. He told me that. I couldn't believe that.
And Devontae Smith here's another kid from Louisiana, always told he was too small. Heisman Trophy, national champion, now Super Bowl champion. I mean, whether you like the Eagles or not, the perseverance for a lot of these players just to say, keep your head down, go do your work. Don't listen to those talking heads that know nothing about nothing.
Right.
And go do your work, and, good things happen.
And I believe Devontae lost the Louisiana State championship game in the Superdome.
That's so likely where they
now he comes back. That's where it was, because there's a picture of him sitting under the goalpost. Now he comes back, makes a catch, and first Alabama player to ever score a touchdown and gets a Super Bowl ring.
I find that hard to believe. That's amazing. That's an amazing stat. But I'll tell you a quick story, Scully, to tell you how we're starting to age a little bit. I went down to get my hair cut at the barbershop downtown Fort Myers, where the Dark Knight goes. And it's a typical barbershop, a lot of guys in there chopping it up. Ton of Philly fans, Eliot. And they're all talking about the game and how dominant the defense was. And the one kid next to me said, best defensive performance ever, best defensive team ever. And I said, well, hold on, boys. I go, you apparently forgot about the Chicago Bears. Yes. And the kid looked at me and he goes, you talking about Brian Urlacher? And I'm like, God, I'm getting old. I'm like, no, we're not talking about Brian Urlacher. We're talking about the 85 Bears,
There's recency bias and there's lunacy.
And there's lunacy.
But that's part of why I'm a Philly. I root for the Eagles. I root for all the Philly teams. I am not a lunatic Philly fan. Right. I don't like going to bars where there's a lot of Philly fans watching. I don't like going to the bars where the Gator fans are watching because I can watch a game objectively. I'll root for my team, but I'm not going to scream bloody murder pass interference when there's no chance of that or something like that. So I can't stand those types of fans.
Oh, I was laughing. I was like, it's too bad Scully's not here because he would have lost his mind, being a Chicago boy.
Go back to enhance the story. I was at both the divisional and NFC championship games in Soldiers Field, and it was the coldest I've ever been. The NFC championship game, I actually sat behind Jimbo Covert's family, which was really kind of cool. And then the Bears came to Champaign, because I was at Illinois at the time, to practice in between the Super Bowl and the NFC championship game. So they were all over town. It was crazy. And, God bless Steve McMichael, because he's going through a real hard one right now. He's got ALS. But he was in the bars doing crazy crap all week. It was him and Dan Hampton. It was really cool. McMahon obviously was running around.
But I'd love to, go back to that barbershop and school those kids.
Exactly.
Even that's not even the best Philly defense in my opinion. The Buddy Ryan teams from the early '90s were Reggie White and
Andre
Waters, Eric Allen, who just got into the Hall of Fame got with the announcement last week. Seth Joyner. I mean those defenses, one against the run, one against the one overall. Loaded.
Really?
They may have been better.
You think that was better than that performance we just saw on Sunday?
We just saw a tremendous game performance. At no point were the Eagles being mentioned as going to run through the playoffs dominantly. You had the teams in the NFC North, between Minnesota and Green Bay and Detroit, that the Eagles weren't getting much respect throughout the season.
Well,
Did they have a couple of good games and a great run? Absolutely. And I'm not trying to say they're a bad defense, but to come out and say, oh, they're the best ever, they're the best this, they had a couple of great games, but they were not a completely and totally dominant. Look at what the Ravens did when they won their Super Bowl. They had teams without scoring. Their defenses were outscoring the other team's offenses.
You talk about that great Trent Dilfer team?
Yes.
Hey, he's got a ring.
They won that.
He's got a ring. He's got a chip.
Tampa.
He's got a chip.
Well, I'll make a crazy statement. If it doesn't snow, the Rams beat the Eagles. Because they had a chance at the end, even in the snow.
Had a chance, absolutely. But games are played entirely differently.
Oh, I know.
Right? I mean, I think Sirianni had the ability to call a different game as soon as he saw that his defensive line could pressure Mahomes, and now you're not in as much danger. It gives him the ability to go for more fourth downs.
Oh, totally.
Control more ball tempo. Do some things differently that, again, and whether that's a weather thing, whether that's somebody scoring.
You're taking them out of their comfort zone and their game plan.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where, and not only does DeJean's touchdown, which everybody's going to keep talking about as really the backbreaker, but that second pick that gave him the ball inside the 12-yard line or 10-yard line, whatever it was.
Line, right.
And, so if it's 17-0 at the half or 17-7, if they had gone down and then getting the ball, it plays totally different. 24-0 going into the half, and you go, all right, they need to score at least 3 times 3 touchdowns to even come close. I don't know they're getting 3.
Well,
they're
how
getting
many
those 4
possessions are they going to get?
Exactly.
Right. Which is where that figures in. Well, how about let's jump on to the Nevada gaming side of that game. They broke a record, $22 million net for the weekend, for the game that's on that Sunday, which is incredible. The previous record was set during the Broncos and Seahawks Super Bowl, which I believe was in New York, wasn't it? That was the one that was at the Meadowlands, or MetLife, right? When it was super cold.
I don't remember.
I believe that was the one that was in New York. The only time they've had that. You had $151 million dollars bet, which was the lowest since the Bucks Chiefs COVID Super Bowl. So,
but is that only through Vegas casinos?
Yeah,
or
I'm talking just Nevada. That's why I said it's Nevada.
Right, because again, you look at what happens with how many people are doing FanDuel or other types of online betting that takes away from going to Vegas or placing bets through Vegas-based casinos.
Mm-hmm.
I think changes a lot of that.
Yeah, our local guy was very happy that the Eagles won, but he said he won a little bit on the day, being the book, but the betting public killed him on the over because the over covered. But people that bet the game were betting the Chiefs.
So you're saying everybody went with Trick's pick, is what you're saying?
Yes, that's and somebody else's pick, because I'm on the hook with that.
You know, if you guys looked at some of the clips that were coming out of Vegas, you could get rooms for like $60 going into Super Bowl weekend. That's like unheard of. So
and they were apparently selling tickets day of. You could get them on StubHub way under face value.
Yeah, because they were
the week before was way over, but then as it got closer to game time when nobody was paying them, they kept dropping and dropping and dropping.
All right, lads, what did you think of the halftime show?
There was a halftime show.
Yeah,
you look. Put me in the I'm too old, get off my lawn kind of guy. Couldn't have told you the first song that he sang before the show. Couldn't tell you a song he sang during the show. Apparently great artist. I'm not a rap aficionado whatsoever, but hey, if understand your demographic, understand. But there was not one person at the Super Bowl party that we were all at, nor anybody that I talked to that was excited for it or overly impressed by it.
Why would you have a 43-year-old former athlete, mom of 2, crip walking during the halftime show? That was, I saw the clips. I didn't watch it. I
actually thought Serena looked pretty good. She's cut some weight. Yeah. It doesn't look as, because when she was in her heyday, she looked like a linebacker.
Yeah, I have no problem with her participating in it whatsoever.
I just
Samuel L.
That
Jackson.
was kind of a random. Why would you throw her out?
I believe
he's from Compton.
I believe she crip walked at Wimbledon and got fined.
But I think he's from Compton. I think she is originally too.
Yes, she is.
No, she's from. Yeah, that's where she grew up.
So that's where he grew up, I believe, as well. So now, what their history is, or what how there's a connection.
I could give you the connection if you guys want.
We want it. Yeah, help us out here.
The connection is, Kendrick Lamar had a big hit this past year, won a Grammy for it. It's called "They Not Like Us." Maybe you've heard it. It's a big record from this year, and it was a diss of Drake. Well, Drake used to date Serena Williams. So there was a rap beef. So it was big that Drake's ex-old lady's out there crip walking. So that was the big headline.
That makes sense.
Thank you. That makes total sense.
Okay.
Because, correct me if I'm wrong, Gentry, the gist of that story that was being told during the performance was flashed to go at Drake.
Some of it, yes. Yeah. For sure. Then there was a PlayStation controller. If you play PlayStation, you saw there was a triangle, there was a square, there was an X. That's a PlayStation controller. And at the very end, they say game over, meaning that the beef is over. The people in the black community say that it was part of a revolution, that there was a lot of symbolism in it and stuff like that. They were all excited. I would have liked to seen some diversity since we're trying for unity, but
Okay. Well, I learned something.
Yeah,
I would not have known that.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's cool.
All good.
That gives a little bit more.
That gives our demographic a further outreach. Thank you, Gentry.
It was all a rap beef,
Well, what was your favorite Super Bowl commercial? Before we wrap up this first segment of the Super Bowl recap,
you know which one mine was. We were texting during the game.
The Rocket Mortgage.
The Rocket Mortgage. Take me home.
I don't know that I actually.
Did you not see that?
I don't think so.
It was pretty cool, Eliot. So they started the commercial, the Rocket Mortgage commercial, and they're playing "Take Me Home," Country Roads, And then they flash back to the stadium, and they were playing the song at the same time the commercial was going on. So everyone in the stadium singing "Take Me Home, Country Roads." And then I was telling Scully today, the really cool thing about what they did these last couple of days, they had like Gracie Hunt and all these celebrities that were at the game. They filmed themselves singing the song with their group of people and the fans behind them. And it just was all over social media. So I thought, it
was really cool.
They're propagating my song, but the more that the Hills get, promoted, I'm happy with that.
I was at the airport 6 a.m. Monday morning, flew to Toronto, couple days of work and family, and flew back all day yesterday. Wasn't exactly all over social media and catching up on too much of the commercials and whatnot. So
yeah, but I thought it was a great marketing tool.
Again, if it gets something that gets people talking, it's great.
Well, I think you even texted me, Scully. You said that was the best commercial I've seen so far.
Yeah, and I actually thought it was the best one of the day.
I know there was a Dunkin' commercial that had Belichick and a lot of other people, and I didn't even bother to see who. There was somebody dunked in coffee or something. It was I couldn't even tell who it was at the time, and
he was an actor, and he
talking.
was getting into the part, and it was pretty funny. Affleck is actually pretty funny in that with his brother. And how about Bill Belichick's girlfriend? She's in there now. She's getting a little acting. And she may be one of the best trolls on the internet that there is with her Atlanta Falcons Super Bowl shirt. And
well, we do know he can recruit 20-year-olds.
Yes, we do.
Wow.
We'll get into that. Well, that is a wrap on the 2024-25 football season.
We're not going to spend time on the Pro Bowl, or no?
No, we're not. We're not going into the Pro Bowl. We won't go into that. It was a great year. Congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles. It's as we're going to get into the next segment into your ballywick with college basketball, talk a little golf, but it's when I get in a little depression now because the only thing I got to look forward to is the scouting combine and the draft, and then time comes, but my son's high school baseball starts. But
it gives us a little bit of time to get out and do some other things that don't fill up a Saturday for college football and Sunday for pro football.
Very
true.
Go
out and enjoy some weather and some other things.
Yeah. Well, as we go to break, please follow us, like, and subscribe on all of our social media. We want to give a shout out to Jan Pro of Southwest Florida and our man Frank Papasadoro. We believe in what you do. Anybody needs anything commercial custom cleaning, Frank is the man here at Jan Pro Southwest Florida. And we'll be back in just a minute with the Mike Scully Show as we transition to college basketball. And Eliot is smiling. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Mike Scully Show. Moving to segment 2, college basketball. Again, a shout out to my man Frank Papasadoro at Jan Pro of Southwest Florida Custom Commercial Cleaning. Thank you for your support, Frankie. Well, guys, who's number 1 in college basketball? It seems to change every day.
And it's going to continue to change every day. But Saturday, we got a big one that will determine, at least this week's, 1 versus 2.
And that is in Tuscaloosa.
I believe so, yeah.
Yes, it's in Alabama.
That's Auburn, Alabama. Auburn from Alabama going to play Alabama.
That 4:00 Saturday afternoon really interrupting the day. Right.
Well, they're two of the best teams. I don't know if they're the best teams. I mean, Florida is playing out of their mind too.
They just had one of their big guys sprain his ankle and go down for a little bit. And again, it's part of is going to be who stays healthy, who shows up on a given day. And that's part of when, and the NFL does the same way. One game can change everything. Whereas when you're in hockey, you're in baseball, you're in basketball, that 7-game series, you're really, truly going to see the best team over time. That one and done, you get someone in foul trouble, you get somebody that's cold, or someone that gets just absolutely red hot, changes everything.
Well, it was funny. We had you almost trending live on X on last week after the show when you made the statement that the SEC tournament's going to be better than the NCAA tournament. It was,
and I still believe it. I mean, You look at, I watched the game last night, South Carolina, who we had mentioned, only team going into conference play with 3 losses, hasn't won a game in the SEC, and yet still is in consideration for an at-large bid.
Yeah, Jay Billis said he thinks there's going to get 11, maybe 12. You think?
Yeah, it'll depend on how teams play down the stretch. The bottom is really starting to fall out for a couple of the teams at the bottom. But like I think Georgia's 4-8 in conference, but still likely going to get in even with a losing record.
Yeah, I mean Tuesday night I went to Buckets with Frankie, and the games that were on Tuesday night were phenomenal slate of games on a Tuesday
Was that
night.
The Kentucky-Tennessee game?
Kentucky-Tennessee, Florida played Mississippi State. You had Marquette was playing DePaul. West Virginia was playing, got beat by BYU. You had Iowa State. Kansas State, Kansas, I believe, played that night. It was just a great night for college basketball.
This is going to be power conference heavy. The 2 big arguments that I think you'll really start to hear coming down the stretch is, first off, what happened in the mid-majors? Mid-majors don't really exist anymore, right? Teams like Xavier and Creighton and Cincinnati that used to be which conference? Not Conference USA. Atlantic 10 and back in the day.
Well, they were Conference. Cincinnati was Conference USA for.
But all of a sudden, and now they're Big East or Big 12. And so a lot of these teams that were historic mid-majors don't exist anymore. And because you got so many power conference teams that are filling up the top, the lower conference teams don't have the ability to get the quad 1 wins and really build a resume. So you're going to see teams like the American Athletic Conference, Conference USA again, the Atlantic 10, the WAC, things like that are going to be one and done. One bid, that's it, and done. You're not going to get multiple bids from these smaller conferences.
Now, do you think, not to jump off topic or get into a whole nother rabbit hole, but has NIL played a huge impact in that? I mean, because I can just speaking from experience with my 2 boys, college baseball, the mid-majors, the Grand Canyon universities of the world, the Virginia Commonwealths of the world, they can go out and they can beat anybody.
Yeah.
Now do they have the funding that the Power 4 now, not used to be Power 5 do, but
well, the 3 guards from Maryland, and again, I'm biased, went to school there. That is my live and die root for everything. 3 transfer guards all came in this year, 1 from Belmont, 1 from Virginia Tech, and 1 from the University of South Florida. And the kid from the University of South Florida was 6th man of the year for South Florida. South Florida made the tournament last year, had a great run. Their big guy, Kason Pryor, transferred to, I think, Kansas State, but got hurt and is out for the season. But when you can be that mid-major team that makes a run, you're instantly going to get gutted. So it's not that teams can't pop up and do it once. They can't do it consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that Power 4 conference money, add to Big East and basketball because they don't have to spend the money on football. That's where that money is really, the NIL makes the difference.
It's starting to come. Okay.
Once you have that monster year that you blow up, nobody stays anymore.
Yeah, I mean, look at what's happened to a couple of our blue bloods. I mean, Kansas and North Carolina. North Carolina's not going to make the tournament.
No, down year. Although they've already come out and said, Hubert Davis has come out and said, we need a full top to bottom redoing of how we run an operation. We need a general manager. We need an NIL coordinator. We need a recruiting coordinator. They were still trying to do it the old school way and realize it's just not sustainable. Kansas has gone out and spent all the money. Hunter Dickinson came from Michigan 2 years ago. They've gone out and gotten a bunch of kids this year, and they're still ranked 17th in the country. Now they're 17-7. They haven't played nearly as well. They're, normally they are at the top of the Big 12. I think they're 4th in the Big 12 right now. So they're not, again, 17th in the country. They haven't fallen off the face of the earth and as bad as North Carolina is. But yeah, if you spend the money and you don't hit on the players or they are too selfish and I'm not saying these kids at Kansas are, but
right.
This is where normally you build a team cohesively together to try to restart cohesion amongst kids every single year with a lot of new talent. Very difficult to do.
Well, the amazing thing is what I've seen in the last couple of weeks, just from a business standpoint, in the business of college sports. I do business development. That's what I'm doing when I don't sit behind this microphone. And I have seen more jobs posted, Texas, University of Houston, App State. There was 7 or 8 of them. I think Texas A&M was one of them. But they're all posting business development positions to drive NIL and those type of things to, for their kids and the recruiting aspect and working for the GMs of the teams. Now, when the hell did we ever have a GM of a college football program?
You didn't. You used to sit in the house and talk to the parents and the kids about their education.
Right.
We're going to take care of them for 4 years. We're going to help them prepare for whatever career that is, whether that is NFL, NBA, whatever it may be, or get them a college degree. Today, it's what can you pay me? How much can you pay me? It is really the center of a lot of it.
Right in the middle of it with my son. The recruiting aspect of what's
these coaches aren't really coaches anymore. If you look at the ACC coaching, the number of coaches that are in the ACC, the ones with the longest tenure at this point now, I mean, there's been 3 or 4 that have stepped down this year. You don't recognize them. You don't know them.
In basketball or football?
Basketball.
Okay, I was going to say Dabo's the long-standing one
football
for
is,
football side.
but in college basketball, you had Tony Bennett step down from Virginia at the start of the year. Larinaga stepped down in the middle of the year. Leonard Hamilton just announced he's going to resign at the end of the year from Florida State. He's been there almost 25 years.
Jay Wright retired
a couple of years ago from Villanova.
But what you say too, Eliot, the SEC, you got to give them credit. I mean, the Big 12 is obviously having a down year, but the one thing I've noticed since, you got me watching that league a little more, they've spent a lot of money on their coaches. They've got some big time coaches in the SEC.
100%. And I think you'll see some of that, come with the ACC growing, realizing they fell behind in the arms race monetarily.
Would you say they're third right now? I mean, I know the Big 12 is
distant third.
Okay.
Because the Big 12 has or the Big Ten, the distance, or the Big Ten is monetarily the strongest. The SEC catching up financially. If you just look at what the payout is per school. Now, the alumni base and how much money they're taking in, because in the Southeast, for the most part, you're not competing with NFL teams or NBA or professional sports teams.
They are the professional sports
correct.
team.
So that's where, and you're getting almost the entire state to rally behind them, whereas a lot of what you may be seeing in the Northeast, you've got major metropolitan cities. You take Illinois and Northwestern, you're competing with every other Chicago team. It's not nearly as lucrative.
And our Chicago teams aren't very good right now. The Bulls, the Bears, and the Blackhawks.
Say the same thing about the Michigan schools. Ohio has how many? Ohio really only has one university that is sports competitive, right? But they still have multiple cities that have professional teams and everything else. So it's a big challenge.
Well, they say I heard something the other day. We was having a conversation with a gentleman, and they believe the SEC's resurgence in basketball is coming really from football. And they've been so dominant the last 15 years, so let's say, that these kids are coming down for a recruiting trip during a football game, and they're seeing what goes on campus, especially like you go to Ole Miss, you go to Alabama. I mean, Alabama now is a powerhouse in basketball. I mean,
Absolutely.
Nate Oates went to a Final Four last year. He's got a chance to go this year. Somebody told me that Indiana is going to come after him with a cruise ship full of money to come.
Well, Indiana screwed it up. They had Dusty May, who is an alumnus of the school, was a student manager under Bobby Knight, lived and breathed Indiana, and he took FAU to the Final Four run. Indiana didn't even look at him. And Mike Woodson's already announced he's retiring at the end of the year, and now you've got him at Michigan.
Yeah.
And he's recruiting and doing a ton of stuff for Michigan. One of the things for a lot of these schools, they say when they do a great NCAA tournament run, great college football run, have these amazing runs, the donations go up from the alumni.
Oh, very much
You
so.
get the applicants for students to go in there. When FGCU, which is 5 minutes from where we are recording, when they had Dunk City in 2013, the number of applicants who went to that school skyrocketed. And the amount there's no amount of money that you can fundraise that replaces that.
Facilities get upgraded. The other teams pay the dividend from receiving that money. It's when we went to the Rose Bowl when I was at Illinois, we got a new baseball stadium built. We got a new wrestling deal. They built a new swimming complex. I mean, it was all from the fact that we won the Big Ten and went to the Rose Bowl and got that money back in the day. Now it's 100 times more this time around. 40 years later. Jesus, 40 years now, 30 years later. No, 40 years. Yeah. God darn, I'm getting old, boys. All right. Well, college basketball is front and center right now. We got a big game. You guys going to have a Duke and Duke's bet on the Auburn-Alabama game?
I'm always down for putting $1 on that.
We will do a Duke and Duke. You want us to do it now? Or
let's do the Duke and Duke on the college basketball.
Well, obviously Eliot's the expert. I'll let him go second. I've looked at this game, and it's ironic because we talked about it in the Super Bowl. Defense wins, and Auburn obviously has a little better defense than Alabama, but I'm of the opinion, Eliot, that home court advantage is huge in college basketball. This game's in Tuscaloosa. I think it's going to be a close game. I'm going to go with Alabama.
I agree with everything you said, and I'll quite happily bet $1 and take Auburn. No, I think, again, we talked about him on the show last time. Janai Broome is an absolute legit stud at 6'11", can play inside and outside. And what you see a lot more of in college basketball today is the ability for these teams to switch positions, right? So you're getting your guards, because so many of these big men aren't post-up big men. You may have a height differential, but it used to be where if I was the point guard and Scully's my center and he's setting the screen, that we put the defender, whoever's defending, into an impossible position. You either have to fight through him and leave me with an open jump shot, go over the top, which allows me to drive to the basket, which then forces whoever's guarding Mike to then cover me, and I can either throw the lob or the pick and pop. Today, because you have so much positionless basketball, the ability to switch, the screen and roll, while still is central to everything about college basketball, not nearly as you're not creating the mismatches that you used to have. And this kid, Janai Broome, and look, Cliff Amore, who transferred from Rutgers, is playing at Alabama this year. These guys have the ability to switch and pick up a smaller guard, not for 40 minutes of a basketball game, but on a possession to where it's not as much of a mismatch anymore. And that's where you're seeing the real talent for these kids. The athleticism is the day the big man isn't the big man anymore.
Right. I think it's going to be tough. It's a rivalry game. Listen, if this was
all right, so you got Alabama, he's got Auburn.
Yeah. If it was neutral, I'd take Auburn. If this was a neutral court, I would take Auburn.
Yeah,
but I'm going to take Alabama on Saturday.
I'll tell you, the kid for Alabama, Mark Sears, the point guard, took them to a Final Four, dominated an early season tournament and where they played phenomenally. True floor general.
Yes.
And he is going to make that team go. He is the gas in that engine. I think he's going to have a big game on Saturday.
Yeah, Trick texted that his Patrick's power picks, he apologizes to the general betting public, but he said he just texted 2 words: Roll Tide.
Okay.
So
you sure he didn't say high tide?
High tide.
But so Patrick's power picks, he's on Alabama this weekend. You got the Duke and Duke bets. We got Auburn and Alabama. All right.
So you got an opinion on this, Mr. Scully?
I'm a huge Tide fan. So it's my son Jack has been a Tide fan since he was 3. So we have a lot of Roll Tide going on in the Scully household. So I'll take Alabama.
Okay.
I'm excited about that.
So if I can, for the Duke and Duke bets, for those that not only aren't aware of it, but what we love to do, especially during the March Madness games where you've got so many games going on, is we will literally say, all right, what team's going to hit the next 3? Keep a stack of ones in front of you and just keep firing right there.
And 11 guys are throwing a buck in.
And it's just one of those, it takes any blowout, makes it entertaining. You can always bet on the next media timeout. What's the score? What's the spread on the score going to be? It keeps any game entertaining, even if you're not a huge basketball fan or your team's up or down by a lot, gives you something to keep watching. So,
yeah. Well, thank you for the college basketball update there, E.
Thank you.
Great job, brother.
Allow me to join on it.
We got the Duke and Duke bets. Transition to, it's been a kind of a tough week. I've known this gentleman now since 2006, but my buddy Tiger lost his mom last week. She was, I believe, 84 years old and very close to the same age as my parents. And he's not playing this week in the Genesis. He will be out there. This is his tournament. But she was the light in his eyes and was the driving force in that family. And it's I've got a lot of great Tiger stories and just some really cool stuff. I'll give you one Tiger story. 2006 PGA Championship. We have the Champions Dinner, and being the host professional when I was at Medina, invited by the PGA of America, and take my wife at the time, and we get to go in, and now she's gets to meet Phil and Amy and Tiger, and at the time his wife Elin and all those people. and she's having just a great time. Well, we go in, we sit down, and her name tag, she's sitting right next to Tiger. She's like, I'm going to be next to Tiger for the next 3.5 hours while this dinner's going on. So in his true, he is the best cut up and prankster of all time. But she asked him, being a mother of 2 boys, are you going to go back and ever get your degree? And he looked right at her, does not break his facial expression at all, and says, why would I? I have 4 masters.
Oh,
and I know what it is.
Yeah.
And the table starts laughing, and my wife turns and looks at me. She goes, how do you get a bachelor's degree without having a master's? Or how do you get a master's degree without having a bachelor's degree? I said, honey, it's the green jacket. And she turned and looked at him. My poor wife, she was in the mumble tank for the next 3 hours. He had her going the whole time. He was a lot of great stuff. He did some cool stuff for my kids. So, Tiger, I'm thinking about you. Good luck this week at Genesis. Hope everything's gone. They've moved Genesis down to Torrey Pines in San Diego because of the wildfires in Pacific Palisades. So they're not going to play the traditional course, one of the best ones in the world, Riviera. So we're thinking of you, brother, and I feel for you, and God bless you. The waste management finished up. I just want to touch on this. My man, Thomas Detry, he comes from the Mike Small School of Golf at the University of Illinois. He's one of our tour players. The first Belgium tour player winner. Thomas Peters is another Belgium kid who played at Illinois that's done really well on tour. So Waste Management pulled it off. The Thunderbirds did an unbelievable job out there in Phoenix, as they always do. It looks like the crowd behaved themselves. And perfect Chamber of Commerce weather. The shot he hit on 16 on Sunday, hit it to about a foot. Just closed the door on everybody. So I'm very happy for Thomas and his wife and 2 kids. So Phoenix, the Thunderbirds and the Phoenix Waste Management Phoenix Open did a great job. Gentlemen, we have the second Super Bowl in a 2-week period this weekend. The Great American Race. I know that our local Alabama boy who has NASCAR tattooed on his ass is not in studio. And when I talked about, hey, Eliot, we're going to talk about NASCAR, he's like, I don't know a gosh darn thing about it.
I got 2 things about NASCAR. Number 1, I bet you they're going to turn left. And there's nothing stock about a stock car.
Very true.
That is the end of my knowledge.
Very true. But I know, my man from West Virginia, you're bred with a little bit of the NASCAR background.
Yeah, when you grow up in the South, it's part of the culture. I didn't really get into it like, some of my other buddies do. But listen, I've always turned it on. It's Daytona. You got to watch a little bit of it on Sunday. I was telling Mike before the show, when I did watch it a little bit, I was always a fan of Smoke, but he's retired now. But I think somebody we got to watch out for, and he's a local boy, and some of our good friends up at Hooters grew up with him, is Ross Chastain. He's driving the number 1 car for Busch Light, and we'll be rooting for him on Sunday. So,
yeah, Chase Briscoe's got the pole position. He comes from the Joe Gibbs racing team. So he was the fastest, and I'm in Martin Truex Jr. and Jimmy Johnson, 2 of the old-time guys. They've qualified. They're going to get in it. But the one thing when we were talking in the green before you got here, Eliot, Helio Castroneova, 4-time Indianapolis 500 winner, is in the field, and he's qualified. He's going to be in the race. So, I mean, it'll be interesting. Have we seen a weather forecast for Daytona for this weekend? I hope they don't. They always seem to get rain somehow, some way.
It's one of those events, too, that people that I've known, and I've been told this. Probably the reason I'm not into it as much is because I haven't gone to one live. They're saying if you go to one live or go to the Daytona 500, you're hooked.
Yeah,
they said it'll reel you in. So
they say the same thing about the Indy 500. Is 350,000 people, and they say it's a great experience and to feel the power of these cars.
Yeah, it's one of those bucket list sporting events you've got to go to.
Yeah,
but the turns at Daytona. The angle of the turn.
So my dad's a car junkie.
Is he?
And he's done performance driving schools for about 40 years. He's an instructor as a hobby at a couple of the racetracks throughout the Northeast. He came down about 10 years ago, took my car. He'd always wanted to drive Daytona. There was a performance driving school there. I gave him my car. I've got video of him up on the banking and doing the interior. And he sends it to me on his first run. And he says, oh, this is awesome. Exactly what I wanted. And then blew up my engine on his second run at Daytona. So he was like, well, Hey, no, insurance covered everything, so not a big deal. But it's like, yep, Dad went up to Daytona and blew up my car. So it's one of my favorite videos of him driving.
Yeah, and we hope everybody's safe, and it's a great race. It's a little bit of Americana right there.
Absolutely,
the old Great American Race and the Super Bowl of NASCAR. A couple of housekeeping items before we go and give our final thoughts. What do you think of the Saints hiring Kellen Moore?
I think he did a good job in Dallas. I think he did a great job with the Eagles. Started as a quarterback at Boise State and led them for a long time. So I think the guy knows how, I think, to build things. We'll see. Again, how does an organization run, I think, is sort of the big piece. Not just because I think anybody that gets to that level can coach, right? Even the coaches that are unsuccessful in the pros can coach. Are you going from where you're a specialist to now being a generalist for everything from cap to offense to defense, special teams, all the player personnel stuff. There's a lot more responsibility.
That goes in on the player side as well. Where you get drafted into or where you sign. I mean, I go back to one that he was an unbelievable quarterback, but I still think he's looking over his shoulder because he got drilled so many times. Was David Carr, Derek's older brother?
Yeah,
he was the number one pick of the Houston Texans. He sees his shadow and he craps his pants because he had no left tackle and got killed.
Yeah, you compare him to Jamarcus Russell, Jamarcus Russell was a guy that did not put the time in, did not have the work ethic, did not do enough to warrant and being an NFL quarterback. But David Carr, nobody's ever said that about him.
Right.
It was simply there was no offensive line, there was no support, and he was a piñata. And you can only do that for so long.
Yeah, poor guy got crushed. I mean, he just look, he can take some shots here. Great pull, great clips, guys.
Scully, there's some other news that broke this week too. We were talking a little bit about. What'd you guys think about? I think the Raiders hired Chip Kelly as offensive coordinator. They did, right?
Yeah,
that's an interesting hire.
Well,
he's former Philadelphia.
$3 million a year.
I said it when
highest paid assistant in the NFL.
When the Eagles hired him out of Oregon, I thought it was an absolute genius hire, and I loved it. Didn't turn out the way we expected it or we wanted it to. But he came in with a lot of new ideas that the NFL hadn't really seen that I think is now universally adopted by a lot of the teams now. But again, when you get up to that CEO level, I don't think he's prepared for that. He's a good general, but not the commander. And, I think that's part of why he left UCLA. He was likely going to get fired at UCLA, but said, all right, I'll be the OC at Ohio State. Okay. I
wins a natty.
Wins a natty.
Yeah.
Right. I'll be the number two. He
also had a phenomenal relationship because Ryan Day played for him.
Yeah.
They go back to the Northeast when Ryan Day actually played for him. But I think that's a great hire. I think you're going to see Shedeur Sanders with the Raiders.
Really?
You look at in Kansas City, Spagnuolo.
Or Aaron Rodgers, which we'll get to next.
I was going to say, we got some Aaron Rodgers news too.
Steve Spagnuolo, right? Was head coach of the Giants and I think had another head coaching stint and couldn't do as a head coach, but has been phenomenal.
Oh, on the defense side, absolutely.
Side. And so you saw a lot of the New England guys that went and left Belichick, went out, were not successful as head coaches, came back or went to other places and were great. Norv Turner did the same thing.
Well, and Ohio State hired Brian Hartline. They not hired him, but elevated him because he was their receivers coach to the offense coordinator. And go back to your Patriots staff. The rumor has it that Matt Patricia and his wife were in Columbus looking for houses.
He got hired last night.
Did he get? Okay, I didn't see that come across the wire.
Matt Patricia got hired. That's what I heard.
Yeah, I heard they were in town yesterday. I did not get follow through and see that.
Brian Hartline, not only a tremendous NFL career, but how many wide receivers has he brought in and recruited? And you can't say turned into superstars because those guys have unreal talent, but he has hit and created
over and over again.
Yes, and absolutely multiple wide receivers per year coming out of Ohio State.
He may have the best one still in the fold
2 more
right
years.
now. Yeah. So, and then we go to, we talked about Aaron. The Jets wanted him. They had a conversation, but then they told him they didn't want to do the McAfee show.
That's crazy. I mean,
well, I wouldn't necessarily go that it's crazy. I think in part you have to build a culture in your organization, and he has been everywhere he's been the last 10 years plus. He's been a culture killer. He's been a cancer in the locker room. I'm not talking about what his beliefs are, but is he a galvanizing force that makes everybody run out of that locker room and play like a team? You look at just the commercials of everything from Philly. On the Tonight Show, you had Saquon and Jalen Hurts plus the entire offensive line, right? Has Aaron Rodgers brought his offensive line anywhere in the last 5 to 10 years?
He brought Bakhtiari to a Milwaukee Bucks game when they started slamming beers, but not the offensive line.
But they're buddies, and they started coming up together.
Right.
So part of it is when you're talking about we need to build a culture. And again, Brady said this towards the end of his time. He's 40 years old. The kids that are coming in, 22, 23 years old, what does he have in common with them? Brady's got 3 kids or however many kids and his, avocado ice cream and, eating totally clean and healthy and going to bed at 8 o'clock. Are you really connecting with your teammates? Or it takes somebody truly unique to be able to do that. And I think that's part of what you're seeing with Rodgers. It's not what his beliefs are. Is he willing to put the work in with his teammates and connect with them on that level?
Yeah. And the breakdown, looking at where he could end up if he doesn't retire.
It's 2 teams that I keep hearing, the Raiders and the Steelers.
And I heard the Steelers this morning. That exactly.
Which
I would be staying away from at this point.
I might have to stop being a fan. I mean,
if they sign him,
I mean, really, what are you trying to do there? You either give Justin Fields the chance or you just blow it up.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Is it to make your team better for 1 year?
Is he going to follow Brett Favre and go to the Vikings?
Oh, that would be
that's great call, boys.
Curveball. Yeah,
that's hilarious. Well, speaking of Tom Brady, the Super Bowl. When do you go do a broadcast and you wear an $800,000 watch?
Well, when you sign
that Jacob and Company yellow sapphire caviar tourbillon, I believe is how you pronounce it.
Yeah. Well, let's get back into, I know we seem to be blowing a lot of smoke up Dave Portnoy's ass, but the guy's a great marketer. I don't know if you guys saw the tweet he made right after that picture of Brady was taken. It only showed half the watch. And for those of you that don't know, Portnoy owns Brick Watches, and his tweet is Tom Brady wearing a Brick watch, which was brilliant because it just took off on social media. And I just think the guy's brilliant. And it also goes into what we were talking about before we came in about the fight, the John Rocker.
Well, I was going to go to that. We're going to close this segment with that.
My question on him wearing an $800,000 watch. If you don't wear it at the Super Bowl, when are you going to wear it?
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh, good point, Eliot. Good point. Well, we talked about last week what big fans we are of Dave Portnoy. John Rocker and Patty Mahomes Sr. in New Orleans getting into a verbal spat. Now they're going to be in the
rough and rowdy,
Wheeling, West Virginia,
on April 18th or April 12th or something like that.
Have you ever watched Rough and Rowdy?
No, I have not.
It is spectacular gold. It is a train wreck that you cannot stop watching.
Really?
Yeah. It's awesome.
Amateur people just needing to get their beef out and just these lunatics willing to get in the ring and punch each other's lights out.
Here we go. Gentry's Gentry's on the same page as me. I felt like this was staged as a marketing ploy.
These guys haven't liked each other for 20 plus years.
Yeah, because Mahomes' dad was on the Mets.
Yeah,
when he
and it's not hard.
And he insulted what's the 7 train?
Yeah, the 7 train, and he insulted just about every single demographic of New York City, including African Americans. So the fact that Pat Sr. Doesn't care for him is not all that shocking.
Yeah, well, I got a chance to meet Pat Sr. last year when his son came up and played golf. He's a scrappy, tall, thin guy. He's not a real big guy. Rocker's kind of jacked.
Yeah,
I think Rocker's got 3 inches on him.
Yeah, and he's about 45 pounds. It looks like too. Yeah. I don't know if I'd want that fight, but it's kudos again to Dave Portnoy.
Yep.
Stool Presidente has done it again. Well, gentlemen, that is the end of that segment. We've got come back after this for some final thoughts, and we'll wrap up this show and get Eliot home so he can get healthy. Thank you for tuning into the Mike Scully Show. We want to give a big shout out to my man Bob Hamer at Coastal Title. Bob and Ruta, we love you. Thank you for your support. Please follow, like, and subscribe to the Mike Scully Show, and we'll be back in just a minute. Thank you. Well, welcome back to the Mike Scully Show. Again, a shout out to our good friend Bob Hamer at Coastal Title. Bobby, we love you. Good luck this weekend on the golf course, my friend. Well, final thoughts, gentlemen. How about the Hillbilly Chronicles?
Well, we normally don't.
Or, I'm sorry, the Hillbilly Network News.
Hillbilly Network News.
We got the Hammer Chronicles.
We normally don't go into NBA, and nor do I want to get into that, but I have to mention this. I'm sure you guys are aware the absolute disastrous trade of Luka this week by Nico Harrison. And I haven't seen a trade this bad since Joe Biden traded Brittany Griner for the Merchant of Death. I mean, this is just horrendous. That's absolutely horrendous trade. And to compound it, now they're throwing fans out. A 12-year-old girl started a Fire Nico chant in the stadium. They threw her out. A guy mouthed Fire Nico, just mouthed it. He got caught on the Jumbotron, threw him out. I mean, what are the Mavs doing? And you know, Nico, he can justify that Luka was out of shape or that he was drinking beers after the game or he wasn't invested, but you don't shade a generational talent like that. And I would just tell
he 25 or 26 years old?
He's 25 years old.
Already made an NBA final, 5-time All-NBA, first team. I mean, automatic first ballot Hall of Famer if he retires today.
And then you trade him for Anthony Davis, who's already hurt. He's got a history of being hurt. I don't know. I would simply say, Nico, just put the fries in the bag, bro.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pack
put
up
the fries in the bag.
Yeah. The office will be packed up. Door ain't going to work.
Put the fries in the bag, bro.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about the Hammer Chronicles?
Eliot.
So I was on a flight yesterday, coming back from Toronto, and was wearing a shirt that for a golf tournament that I helped sponsor for a bunch of my orthopedic surgery clients.
Mm-hmm.
And over the loudspeaker, they go, we're in the air, and they go, anybody here, the medical professional? And the woman sitting next to me turns and she's like, you. And I'm like, oh, contraire, mon frere. There is no chance. Not only am I not a medical professional whatsoever, but, and look, if I did have any medical training and somebody was legitimately in need, of course I'd step up. But, you look at what happened with Daniel Penny, the kid in New York City, trying to do a good Samaritan thing and help somebody out or, stop a fight or just try to, get in between people. This day and age, whenever I'm in a crowd, I don't care who's screaming bloody murder. I don't know what else is going on. Just, nope, didn't see it, don't know, don't care. And that's a horrible way to be, but that's where our society is today.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it's sad and it's tragic, but it's also a reality.
I had a personal experience with that. About 2 years ago, broke up a fight. Guy was beating up on a smaller guy, and it was stupid. So I went and bear hugged the big guy. What ends up happening to me? The big guy's wife hits me over the back of the head with a frickin' chair.
Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, so I won't repeat what happened after that, but the Good Samaritan.
Patrick has a good one of us at a local watering hole where two people that we are acquainted with, not friends with, but we see on a regular basis that had been overserved that night and decided to fight each other. And I trying to be the, nice and saying, I'll get in the middle. I'll slow these guys down. And Patrick just sitting there, sipping his cocktail, did not move an inch. And these two are threatening to kill each other. And it's like, guys, you're friends. Just stop. And then they're trying to throw me around because I'm trying to be in the middle of it. Nope. Yeah. I'm taking the Patrick Leslie school things. I'm going to sit there and sip my drink and
let them fight it out.
Go nuts, guys.
There you go. Great call,
that
boys.
Was great.
Gentry, you got anything today, my friend? You did a great job as always, you and the boys.
My final thoughts are peace, love, and happiness. Can't we all get along? Hoping 2025 is going to be a good one for all of us, and hopefully Eliot gets feeling better.
Amen. Thank you for both parts.
Take your vitamins and say your prayers.
Exactly.
There you go.
There's the Hulkster when we need them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you, lads. We'll be back next week with a full crew. We'll get Trick on the mend. Eliot feeling 100%. Sean and I have had enough beers this week that we probably killed every germ that we needed to.
Yeah.
And we'll be back with the Mike Scully Show next week. Please be safe out there. And again, we can't do it without you. Please follow, like, and subscribe. And we'll see you next week. Thank you very much.